from when you fire it up, like it takes a certain amount of time to make sure all the pathways are set, like that.
That used to be about 15 seconds, and it took about 3 or 4 minutes this time.
Interesting. Very, very interesting.
Apparently the event horizon is as big as our entire solar system.
Ooh. I can see us now.
You can see clearly now. The rain is gone.
I can see
look at Phil. Phil's like, no.
You guys have been doing this show too long.
I can see all the
obstacles
in my way.
You know how I used to sing that when I was a kid?
Lorraine?
I can see all the popsicles in my way.
How many were in your way?
Lots of popsicles,
Lots of popsicles.
Man. Well, welcome to the live recording of SiftPop. I'm Aaron. Andrew's here as well.
Hi.
And thank you for joining us on YouTube. Feel free to subscribe on YouTube. We love to have you here. What you are witnessing is the live recording of an audio podcast. So we will, yes, Andrew, you can shake your head as much as you want, but it is still an audio podcast. Joey says hello. Hello, Joey.
Hello, Governor.
Thanks for coming in a little early with us on this Saturday.
Yeah, thank you for accommodating my weird schedule this weekend.
Yeah, it's Andrew's fault.
It is my fault.
So we're going to do the show. Have a good time, and feel free to chat along in the chat. Producer Phil can interact in the chat. We don't interact in the chat too much, other than at this point.
Yeah.
Or at the end, we'll do a little more interaction with the chat. Evan hanging out with us as well. Hey, Evan.
During the show, you're dead to us.
Evan says, what a harmonic treat. Aw, thanks, man. Appreciate that.
I want a harmonica.
Yeah?
How expensive are they, you think?
Oh, they're not bad.
Really?
Even really nice ones aren't bad. No, you can get a cheap toy harmonica for $15, bucks or whatever.
I've heard like what people consider to be like fancy harmonicas compared to those ones that you get like as a kid. I can't really hear a difference.
Yeah, I mean, harmonica players can. Okay, so the Suzuki SBD 39 orchestral harmonica is $1,353.
Whoa.
But the Fender Blues Deluxe harmonica is $1,199. So
well, that one's deluxe.
Take your pick.
How many more notes do you get from the deluxe version? That's what I want to know.
The orchestral version looks intense.
Really?
I wonder what makes it $1,353. That's insane. You can find a Lee Oscar Major diatonic harmonica in the key of C for $44. So
I wonder which one Alvin from Alvin and the Chipmunks used.
A good beginner yet still pro-quality 10-hole diatonic harmonica is somewhere between $35 and $90. A good quality chromatic harmonica will cost somewhere between $120 and $250. If you buy a harmonica within these price ranges, you can spend more, but you won't necessarily get a harmonica that plays or sounds better. So
Bill, I didn't want to tell him, but I was just joking about getting a harmonica.
Look, you asked a question, I had Google, I gave you the answer. That's how it works.
That's why I have friends like you who are willing to just hop right on the internet and look up meaningless things for me.
Hey, look,
but
that's
now
what
I
we
know
do.
something. I know that you can get a harmonica from $11 to $1,300.
Jay Bourgeois asks, where does your dad joke thread on Twitter yesterday rank in your greatest achievements? It's up there. It was a lot of fun. It's still going, by the way.
Like between which of your sons? Will it?
Well, let's see. The birth of number one has to be number one, right?
Does it?
And then the tweet jokes, and then our friendship.
Oh, suck it, kids. Yeah.
That's exactly what my wife said when she was breastfeeding. All right, so we're going to continue into the show. Evan says, look, squirrel. So we'll get into the podcast.
Snap.
And maybe Phil can use some of that in the outtakes. Who knows?
I don't know.
All right. Let's see. We're going to have a fun time talking about Good Boys. Thank you again for joining us. And Phil, if you are ready, we will get into it. Live from a bunker in the heart of the Ozarks, a podcast that promises to surround you and walk into this podcast so no pop culture bullies can hurt you. It's SiftPop.
feel like I need a whistle right now.
Welcome to SiftPop, streaming live most weekends, are available to download later in your podcast feed, unless, of course, you're a patron.
Patrons get perks!
Patrons get those perks. I'm your host, Darren Dicer, and he's my zealous and zany co-host, Andrew Ormsby.
Are you going to go numbers after this?
Who knows what's going to happen?
All right.
It's a wild, magical world.
Ahoy!
Each week we'll chat about movies, television, and whatever else from the pop culture universe is on our minds. Good to see you, man.
You as well.
Always good to get together and chat a little bit about pop culture.
Yeah, it feels like it's been forever since I've seen you.
At least a week.
At least a week. At least.
At least. It's interesting because we are entering the doldrums. There's a couple movies here or there that we're going to be excited to talk about, but for the most part, until we get to, I'm going to say
season, like
November-ish,
yeah.
it's going to be kind of slim pickings. We'll keep talking about movies, and thank you for joining us as we talk about the slim pickings. But it's
going to be a lot of filler episodes.
But here's what I like about the filler episodes, and this is why I bring it up.
The producer filler episodes.
The producer filler. What was it? Filler. Yes,
Yeah.
The producer filler episodes.
Yeah.
That's hard to say because I said episodes.
Yeah, you did.
The thing I like about it is that it feels almost a little more organic. It feels like when we're doing all the big summer releases, it's like everybody's talking about this and everybody's talking about this. And now we're getting into stuff where it's like, yeah, there's this movie out called Good Boys, and we're going to talk about it, but it feels a little more like, hey, let's talk about this movie that not everybody's talking about. You know what I mean? So it's kind of fascinating in that way.
It Chapter 2, like the next big movie?
Yeah, probably. That is probably the next, like...
September.
Yeah. That's,
September 6th, yeah.
September 6th.
Yeah, it's a couple weeks away, but yeah, so I don't know. There's something I like about that. It feels a little more grassroots or authentic or so. I don't know what it is, but it's been I've had enough of the big budget, big posters, that kind of talk, because it feels like everybody is saying a lot of the same things about those movies, and now we're getting into movies that people, there's not as many voices. Does that make sense?
Do you think the fact that this has just been an awful year for movies?
Well, that's true as well.
I mean, it's been rough.
Yeah.
Like, all the movies we were so psyched for, and like, there's no way this is going to be bad. Turned out to be really bad.
2019, man, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of 2019 in movies.
Can we go back to 2018? It was so good.
Let's just do that year over again.
2018 was so good.
I would. In most weekends, I would choose whatever was playing last year over whatever was playing this year.
Yeah.
That's pretty much the case. I am excited for this show, though. I do look forward to talking about this movie with you. I'm excited to hear what you thought about Good Boys. We've also got a giveaway that we're doing today.
Look at all these.
Well, this is an audio podcast, Andrew, but we do
Tell
have
that to YouTube.
we do have the Blu-rays in front of us, giving away 3 Jordan Peele packs, award packs. So a Blu-ray of us and a Blu-ray of Get Out. So we'll be doing that. And, of course, we've got our Buried Treasure. We've got a Sift Quest about directors going outside of genre, which should be fun. Best ever good movies, which is an interesting way to say that. Best ever good movies. Someday maybe we'll do best ever great movies. Who knows?
Ooh.
But we'd like to kick it off with some Do We Care?
Every single week, I scour the internet to find out what is going on in the entertainment world. I pick 3 topics for us to discuss, and we must decide... do we care or not? Number 1, Universal has decided to fully cancel the release of their finished film, The Hunt, in the wake of this month's mass shootings. It sucks that I actually have to say this month's mass shootings.
It does very much suck. Yeah. It is obviously not, I don't think this is the place to go into the political ramifications, all those kind of things. But it is interesting to talk about this kind of stuff in the light of pop culture.
It's a studio decision. So
absolutely. Yeah. And it's absolutely 100% their right to make whatever decision they want to make. I find it fascinating what will impact, art and how art corresponds to the real world and what, I mean, for them, the money has pretty much all been spent, right?
Yeah.
So from a financial aspect, I mean, I guess that's not 100% true, but as far as ROI, they've already invested a lot of money. They've already paid the actors, director and that kind of stuff. Although I don't know what deals are in place, there may be points, which that's an interesting thing, right? Because then you've got actors or directors who may have points on the release that are like, now I don't get any of that money. That kind of thing.
I don't think for a movie like this you're going to get
I don't think so either. I'm trying
points are reserved for like bigger names in the industry.
Totally agree. I'm just trying to kind of cover all the angles.
Sure.
And what I'm saying is, as far as a financial decision, it doesn't make any sense, right? Like a financial decision would be just throw it out there, make at least a few bucks back, that kind of thing. So there is part of me that's like, way to go for not making just a solely financial decision. But then there's also part of me that goes, are we not grown-ups? Like, can we not view something and also exist in a world where reality is awful and understand the difference? Yeah. I don't know. There's a line somewhere, right? There's a line somewhere, but I don't know that I've ever seen Hollywood draw it this starkly. Now that comes without having seen the movie at all.
Yeah.
So.
I think it was Sony. It wasn't Universal who did The Interview. Remember the Seth Rogen,
but that was
James Franco.
But that was a little bit different because that was like international.
It was international, but
I'm
talking about
pressure kind of stuff.
I'm talking about more like the Hollywood industry reacting to a political, event or something like that. So they ended up releasing The Interview, obviously, unfortunately, because the movie's bad. But I remember there were some
people who would disagree with you on that, by the way.
I know there's a lot of people who would. But going back to this, I don't think they really should have. I think they should have went ahead and released it because it's not glorifying. From what I understand, this is kind of like a modern take on The Most Dangerous Game, which is a great book, by the way. Which is a commentary on it's a social stature commentary. It's not about gun violence,
Yeah, and I think, again, I haven't seen it, but I would think contextually you could release it in a way that was respectful. You could release it in a way and say, hey, this is a piece of art that was made before these things happened.
Yeah.
This is, dark material. It is material that will, I think you could talk about the triggers of it. You could talk about, this may trigger you if you're related to somebody who's been in a mass shooting, those kind of things. Yeah. I think that's important anyway, but canceling it is it's an interesting decision to me, and I wonder what other factors we don't know about may have played into it.
I have a feeling that somewhere down the line they're going to release this movie somewhere.
I would think so.
Yeah.
I mean, the last time I can remember something like this happening was the Louis C.K. movie, right? That was a couple years ago. That I totally understood because you're dealing with...
he was going to be actually being paid and stuff like that.
He was going to profit in a lot of ways from it, and it was very uncomfortable. I've seen the movie because they had sent out the screeners before they pulled the movie.
Yeah.
So I have seen it, and it would have been a very uncomfortable process to try and figure out how to promote that movie, knowing what was coming out about him and what's in the movie, and it was a very weird situation. I don't blame them at all for going, we're out.
Yeah.
But this feels a little different. This feels like you had a chance to actually, I don't know, say something interesting about this and still release somebody's art. But then again, I have no idea because I've never seen it.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to really say.
Sure.
But it is an interesting topic. I'm glad you brought it up.
Number two. Russell Brand is going to be joining the cast of Agatha Christie's film Death on the Nile.
Ooh.
And I know you...
I didn't even know Agatha Christie was a director.
I know. I mean, she's getting up there in age.
She should.
She really is. But you know what? She's still, kicking around, so good for her.
Good for her.
Death on the Nile. I know you're super stoked for this.
I am very excited.
Kenneth Branagh.
Yeah. He can keep making Poirot movies as long as the sun shines on his life. It
was a really good movie.
Yeah. I'm excited for this, and I'm excited that Russell Crowe's in it. I'm excited to see
Russell Brand.
Russell Brand, yes. So I'm excited.
The Brit, not the Aussie.
And if Russell Crowe's in it, I'm excited for that too. Who knows?
Yeah.
This is this year, right? This is this
next year.
Oh, it's next year. Why
They
did I
pushed it
feel?
back.
Oh, okay, they got pushed.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I thought I talked about
It
it
was
as one of
supposed
my
to come
most
out somewhere around
anticipated of the
Christmas or
year.
something
Yeah.
like that, yeah.
But it got pushed. I don't like when movies get pushed. That worries me a little bit. But I mean, there are many reasons, so I'm not gonna worry.
Yeah.
No reason to worry.
Yep.
So yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
I like Russell Brand.
I do too.
I like him so much that sometimes I call him Russell Crowe.
Yeah. Oscar winner Russell Brand Crowe.
It's right.
Number 3.
Number 3.
The people have spoken. They've heard you, Sift Poppers, and it is now happening. Harry Styles has stepped down from playing Prince Eric and the Little Mermaid in wake of all of your comments and cheers and uproar saying that producer Phil is the one and only Prince Eric.
Call me Disney. I'm available.
Yes, he is.
Oh man.
You know there's going to be somebody out there who's going to deep fake Phil on the finished product.
I welcome that.
Yeah.
For sure.
Actually, I welcome Phil actually playing so he gets, the money for it.
Sure. Hey,
Yeah.
listen, if they want to go that route, I'm just telling them it's not a good idea. Not because Phil couldn't do it, but because of the age gap, I'm just saying.
How old are you, Phil?
I'll be 40 next
40?
month. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so how old is the girl who's going to
She's like, what, 19?
if you find a 27-year-old, then you're good. That's the rule. Half your age plus
Half-
7, right?
I thought it was half plus 8, but maybe it is half plus 7.
Yeah. Half. It's somewhere
This
around
is
there.
a rule we shouldn't need, by the way.
Yes.
This is an unfortunate rule.
Yeah.
So anyways, who do you think's going to play? I mean, do you think they'll find? I think they should find an unknown. That's my, or a very low known, at least.
Yeah.
Because I think that's
Christopher Plummer.
yes,
If you're gonna go
the
all
unknown
out.
youngster Christopher Plummer.
Yeah. No, an unknown. I mean, it's not like Prince Eric is going to be like a drawing factor for
See,
this
that's
movie.
what I'm saying. You don't need the more they realize you don't actually need star power to drive these things. You just need the correct actor or actress in the role.
Yeah.
I think the better that. I mean, these things, people are going to buy tickets to these things just because of the nostalgia. That is the driving factor.
Yeah, it's not like they're going. Do you want to go see The Little Mermaid? Well, who's in it?
Right,
No,
yeah.
nobody's saying that. Nobody's saying that. I'll go see it if so and so is in it. Like, if Ryan Gosling ends up playing Prince Eric, then yeah, I'll definitely be in it.
I'm not saying those things don't have an impact. I'm just saying they are not the primary motivator for most people.
No.
And I think Harry Styles was a good choice. I really do, actually. But we'll see what happens because he's out.
Yeah.
And I'm in.
And you're in. You're in, Phil. That's going to wrap it up for Do We Care?
Very nice. Well, let's get into the movie review. We're going to talk a little bit about Good Boys.
I'm having a party tomorrow. You in? Yeah. Can Thor and Lucas come? They're so random. They're my best friends. We do everything together. There's gonna be girls at the party. You know what that means? Drama. No, kissing. You do not want to go to Soren's party not knowing how to kiss. We could spy on my neighbor. She's a total nymphomaniac.
She starts fires.
No, she's a nymphomaniac. Someone who has sex on land and sea.
Oh, the pains that producer Phil had to go through to find 30 seconds that we could use on SiftPop. Invited to his first kissing party, 12-year-old Max asks his best friend Lucas and Thor for some much-needed help on how to pucker up. When they hit a dead end, Max decides to use his father's drone to spy on the teenage girls next door. When the boys lose the drone, they skip school and hatch a plan to retrieve it before Max's dad can figure out what happened. Movie's Good Boys. Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg bringing us their version of what entering junior high might look like. And we all should be very afraid. What did you think? Did you like it? Dislike it? Love it? Hate it? It was just okay?
I want to hear what you think first.
Oh, do you?
I really do.
This is one of those movies, is
Yeah.
it? I liked it.
I loved it.
Nice!
I love this movie.
It really surprised me. I was really surprised by how much I enjoyed this movie. Now, I will say it's not like even a hard like for me. It's just I liked it. I have some things that we can talk about on the negative side, but man, this is fun stuff.
Maybe it's the fact that my theater was uproariously
So was
laughing.
mine.
It was
So was
very
mine.
infectious, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, and that does have an impact. Contextually, how you see a movie absolutely has an impact.
Yeah, the environment definitely plays it.
We talked about this with Hobbs and Shaw last week. The fact that I saw it with friends, I think, elevated my grade on that quite a bit. And I think, seeing it with a crowd that's really into it has a big impact. And they certainly were. But there's a reason that the crowd was laughing so much.
Because this movie's so funny.
It's really funny.
Yeah.
So, I mean, who'd have thunk it?
Yeah.
A comedy that makes you laugh in 2019.
It's crazy. It's crazy that I'm so excited about a movie that made me laugh finally this year.
And that's the other thing all these movies have going for them is they're in 2019. And it feels like every weekend the bar just keeps lowering.
It's like, okay. Oh, they actually got a movie out this week. Yeah.
This one is funny though.
Yeah.
I forget how funny Seth Rogen is. He's really clever, really fun. I don't mean to put all this on him. Obviously, there's a huge team behind it. I don't even think they wrote it necessarily. They're just producing it, but you can feel their spirit in it. I know
it was Stupnitsky who wrote it and directed it.
Mm-hmm, yeah. So it's one of those things where I think the humor, and the reason the humor got to me is because of another thing that I really liked about the movie. Because it depends on the naivete of these three boys.
That's exactly it. Their innocence.
There are innocence, and they are innocence through the entire movie. And I loved it because what you have seen other raunch type movies do is they think you turn it on your head by making the younger kids non-innocence, right? And there's a little bit of that here with the language they use, those kind of things.
I mean, they're 12 years old. Of course they're going to swear.
Right. I mean, that's just not the world I grew up in. But I'm just saying,
That was the world I grew up in.
No, and I'm not doubting it.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that feels realistic or authentic to whatever that experience is for them.
Yeah.
But it also feels very realistic and authentic that they don't get this stuff.
Oh,
you know? And the jokes are because they are so oblivious to these things that they just hasn't entered. Now, it's almost in some ways that so much that it's unrealistic, which is fine with me. Like the whole idea that they are, 12-year-old boys who use this kind of language, but have never seen porn on the internet. I'm just kind of going, look, I've got 4 boys. I know when I had those conversations with them. I know when they saw things that their friends showed them on the internet or those kind of things. So the obliviousness, interestingly enough,
you were the Will Forte.
Yes, exactly. Gladly, proudly, I should say.
Yeah.
But the obliviousness that they have is beautiful for this movie, but almost a little bit inauthentic to our modern world, especially considering some of the other ways they speak and some of the other things they choose to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it kind of does. It's just like maybe it's the fact that it was written by people who grew up in our generation.
That's exactly it. They're putting stuff from our generation on these boys, which works. And don't get me wrong, it's why the movie works, and I'm glad it's in there. And I actually really liked that part of it.
Yeah.
But there is almost that distraction of, well, that's not. I mean, today, if they're talking like that, they would know these things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I love the fact that this movie has such low stakes that you just get to sit back and enjoy. You're not really worried about anything. And that's kind of a breath of fresh air for movies, because if you think about what the grand scheme and everything they're doing, they get into some pretty crazy stuff, but the overall premise of this movie is so unimportant to us. To them, it's the world. It's vital. Everything depends on this day, for them.
Right.
In their minds. But for us, it's like, oh, that's just cute, and you just get to, I don't know if you get to vicariously live through them and you're like, oh, I remember when things so small seemed so big.
You kind of long for that innocence, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think that is a positive of the movie.
I got to say this just real quick. The performances by these kids is great, especially Keith L. Williams.
I do want to talk about, but before we move on from what you said, I think it's interesting because That is my major negative with the movie, is that
Really?
the stakes are so low. There's just not a lot here. You know, the plot is very basic, and not just basic. I don't mind a basic plot. I like that part of what you're talking about, that we can just sit back and relax and not have to worry about a lot. The problem is it's also really derivative. You know, it's like we've seen it a million times before. Do something that's going to get in trouble. Now we're trying not to get in trouble, so the rest of the movie is about how not to get in trouble. Like, that is a very common, derivation of a basic, plot structure. I wanted a little bit more.
You were
from
looking
the
for
plot.
Inception out of Good Boys?
That is not what I said, and you know it. I want a little bit more. I don't need Christopher Nolan's Good Boys. I just need the movie Good Boys to, for the plot at least, to find some way to capture me throughout that's interesting or makes me think.
I think that there are things that aren't plot like driving in this movie that are, that really kind of hit on, like maybe divorce, or how family relations and stuff like that, or social relations, even stuff like that, play a big part in like how the kids see the world and how we would see the world.
Yeah.
So I'm going to
talk-
push back a little bit on what you're saying. It's just a personal preference of like, I love the fact that there were such low stakes in this movie.
Sure, yeah.
So,
well, you started getting into talking about the themes and the messages, which I actually really like. There's a really beautiful thing that happens here with these kids, and I think the performances are part of it. And I do want to still talk about those, but there's this really interesting thing that happens where this movie is about the honesty of, just because we're friends in grade school doesn't even mean we're going to be friends by the end of junior high.
Oh, that was a very powerful scene.
It's just such a powerful message, right? And it's the message that this movie has woven in, and I really respected that this movie was doing something meaningful wise, message wise, because I think that's a really valuable thing for all of us to hear and remember, that friendships do ebb and flow. And, I have, friendships that I talked about, the friends that I went and saw Hobbs and Shaw with. Yeah. Those are my college friends. If I think back to grade school friends, I don't even know those people anymore. I don't know anybody I went to grade school with anymore. I am vaguely aware of a couple of them on Facebook, just vaguely, because they friended me or something.
Yeah.
And I have, I moved when I was in 7th grade. Those friends I'm a little more aware of. I have a group of, maybe 3 or 4 that I would call, good friends that I know, but at the same time, how often do I hang out with them? How often do I talk to them? The answer is I have one high school friend that I talk to occasionally, and that's about it.
Yeah.
And then college friends I still hang out with every year.
Yeah.
So it's like it really is the fact that we change, we develop so quickly over that time that I don't know that I've done a good enough job with my boys teaching them that this seems like your entire world and everything to you, but it is just, this is the time when you're growing and learning who you are, not when you're developing the relationships that will be forever. Love your relationships now, invest in them, treasure them. I should also mention, I do have another friend from my high school years that has lasted through the years. That's my wife. So that is valuable to mention that I actually met her when I was in 7th grade. So we have known each other a while, and that seems to be working out just fine. But that's a little bit of a different story.
Things change, Aaron.
Yeah,
that's the message of this movie.
So anyhow, I think all that stuff was really good. But let's talk about the performances. I'm glad you wanted to go there because they're really great.
Especially Keith L. Williams, who plays Lucas in this movie. His undying optimism and just joy that he finds in everything in the world is like so... You want to live in his world where everything is just going to be okay. Yeah. He was great in Last Man on Earth, and he's great here.
He was my doppelganger
Really?
And I don't mean visually, obviously, but like
that was you when you were growing up?
That was me when I was growing up. Everything
man.
was roses. Everything was positive. Everything was, I mean, I didn't have the same vocabulary necessarily he did when I was growing up. But
you would have been a scab?
100% absolutely.
You would have been a scab?
I would have been a scab.
Oh, yeah.
Student Coalition Against Bullying. Thank you.
Yep.
So he definitely spoke to me as well. Brady Noon was great. There was an aspect of the Thor character.
I would have been Thor.
Yeah, I wondered. Because there's an aspect of that character that is, willing to be performative and different and that kind of thing. And man, that is the character or the personality type that is so treacherous during those years because, you have to be out there and you're going to get, bullied because of it or pushed back because of it. So
Phil, were you Max? Oh, did you see this
Phil
movie?
hasn't seen the movie.
Yeah.
We're just going to say that Phil was Max.
Okay, fair enough.
And that this.
We are the good boys.
We are the good boys. We're the beanbag boys.
We're the beanbag boys.
Yeah.
We're the mic crew. I don't know the
we're the bunker boys.
The pod pals.
We're the bunker boys.
There you go. I like it. Anyways, I do think the performances are great. Jacob Tremblay, who we haven't talked about, is the only one of these three that really has a resume as an actor, and he's doing good work here as well.
Yeah.
But the three of them together were just really good.
Actually, this movie made me want to go home and watch Room again.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, that's not the first movie I should think of after seeing this movie.
It makes me happy to think that maybe this is the same character from The Room, and he's just found peace.
Not The Room.
I mean Room. Sorry. Yeah.
Oh, hi, Mark. Oh, hi, Max.
Never has one article changed things so much.
Yeah.
Okay, so anything else you want to chat about?
I'll talk negatives. I think that this movie gets into the vulgarity just a little too hard in some areas. Like, where I'm like, you kind of crossed the line there for me. I'm like, yeah, that thing you did right there just didn't sit well with me. And I appreciate a movie that pushes the boundaries.
You're such a prude, man.
I know.
Come on, loosen up.
It's true. Out of everybody in this room, I am easily the most prudish.
Yeah.
But were there moments for you where you're like, okay, come on, that was a little too far?
Well, you got to realize, with where I come from and the environment that I've lived most of my life in, it doesn't take much to be across that line for me, right? Like, it doesn't.
That's what it was more of a joke for me asking that for you. Yeah.
Once the second F-bomb is dropped, I'm like, I don't know this world. Where are we?
Yeah. I'm talking about CPR aspects.
No, totally.
Yeah.
And here's the thing: the movie is a raunch-com. It is purposefully pushing those cringe boundaries in the area of sex, language, all that kind of stuff.
Maybe it's the fact that they're so young, like they're kids. I'm like, man. You're too young. You're too young and innocent that I don't want you to be subjugated to
good
this.
Good news.
Yeah.
It all flies right over their head in this movie.
I know it does, but at the same part, it didn't fly over my head.
Right.
Yeah.
My wife saw the trailer and she's like, "These kids aren't even old enough to go see this movie."
That's actually part of it. That's actually a bunch of the trailers for this movie.
Yeah.
Is Seth Rogen sitting these kids down? Not Max Lucas. He's actually sitting down Tremblay and Keith and all of them. He's like, I got some bad news, guys. You can't go see the movie. But we were in it. No, I'm sorry, you can't go see it. Like that was a couple of the trailers for this movie.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. I am with you. And I know you ask it jokingly, but I will attempt to give like an official answer. So for me, the fact that it is so foreign to me, it almost doesn't matter how far that needle gets buried, so to speak. It's all kind of the same.
It's
to
fantasy.
Me. It's a raunch-com, and that's you're trying to push lines and and that kind of stuff, and so I don't know. And also I continue to tell people there's a difference between understanding this isn't how I would interact with the world, this isn't the kind of world I live in, all that kind of stuff, and going, yeah, but that's funny. You know what I mean? Like, you can still have a good sense of humor about stuff and understand where the humor is. And again, thankfully, so much of the humor here is about the obliviousness, which I really do find funny because that was me. I can identify, and still is occasionally me. I can identify with that, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of where I land on how dirty it is.
I'm gonna recommend this movie.
Yeah,
I really am. No post-credit scene.
There you go. That's your one last thing. Well, I guess I'll make this my one last thing since I just mentioned how dirty it is. It's not graphically dirty. I think
It's
we should
insinuation.
exactly. I think we should specify that. You know,
Well,
it's
a couple things, like one or two things, very minimalistic graphic or vulgarity.
yeah. I think you're. Yeah,
But a lot of it's insinuation.
yeah. So I didn't. There was never a point where I was like, I can't believe those boys are on set for this. You know what I mean? That they have to see this or that kind of thing. So
Yeah. Well, yeah.
it was more about what they were talking about and what was insinuated and those kind of things. At least for me.
Yeah.
There you go. There's Good Boys. I would give it a cautious recommend again based on...
You have to know who you're recommending it to.
Yeah, absolutely. The context of who you're recommending
Not
it to.
your church group.
It is funny. It is funny.
Yep.
Some church groups. You don't know.
Apparently, church groups have changed apparently since I was a young
There are all
lad.
types of church groups. Let's just say that. Let's just say most churches, if your youth pastor took you, a group of the youth group to this movie, he would be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
Let's just say that. All right. Let's move on.
But it said Good Boys.
That's right.
It said Good Boys.
I know. It had to be about dogs, right?
Yeah. Good boy.
Good boy. All right, let's move on. Let's talk a little bit about Best Ever Challenge this week. We're going to do Best Ever Good Movies.
Yeah.
These are movies with the word good in the title.
Yep.
And there are some good ones.
Yes, there are.
So let's go number 5 to number 1. I'm going to start.
Okay.
Because we got to talk about The Good Dinosaur. That's my number 5. One of the greatest animated movies of all time. Specifically because of how important the theme is in this movie about understanding family and cliques and if you don't know the underlying inside joke, go back and listen to the Good Boy review.
Our SiftPop review for that is legendary.
It
actually.
is. It is.
We got into a very heated debate
about
what
Good Dinosaur.
About the Good Dinosaur. Of all the movies that have ever been made, the most we've ever argued was over the Good Dinosaur.
It is a definition of SiftPop, the fact that we can take the Good Dinosaur and have a knockdown, drag-out fight about what the theme in that movie is.
Yeah. I was standing up, yelling in my microphone.
You were. Yeah, we didn't have video back then, but man, that would have been a good one.
Yeah.
I do really enjoy this movie more than most, and I do have it at number 5.
I really don't like it.
I do think it's severely underrated and a lot of fun. So that's my number 5. What do you got?
Good morning, Vietnam!
I've got that on my list.
Is it higher?
It's a little bit higher,
Okay,
so
that's
maybe
fair.
we'll wait to chat about that.
Okay, so you're number 4.
My number 4 is Good Night and Good Luck.
That was in my honorable mentions.
Yeah, so you've seen it. I was wondering if you had seen it.
Did Clooney direct this one as well?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. This was kind of Clooney's baby, and I think he did a great job with it.
Fantastic movie.
It is. It's one of those movies where I was not expecting to enjoy it as much as I did. It felt like homework to me. It was one of those homework movies where I was like, oh, I gotta watch this. It's an awards contender, that kind of thing. Clooney.
See,
I
had the high
but
expectations for it because of this cast, and he was directing, and just the art style of it being black and white. Just like, ooh, this looks like it's going to be one of those movies. I'm just gonna.
So Clooney wrote and directed it.
He wrote it too. Oh wow.
It's about the McCarthy stuff. It is in black and white. Kind of gives you that feel for the era and the time. And man, is it good!
Yeah.
It's
It lived up to the name.
It's a nice quick watch too. It's like 90 minutes.
You got to appreciate a good quick movie.
Yeah, so this is one that I would highly recommend that you check out if you haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Good night and good luck.
Yep.
All right, what's your number 4?
A Few Good Men. You gonna trump me on this one too?
I'm definitely gonna trump you on that one too. It's my week to trump everything you say.
That's fine.
I know what your number 1 is, and I won't trump you on trump you on that one.
Yeah.
So I guess we can talk about Good Morning Vietnam then, because I have it at number 3.
Okay,
so,
great.
Robin Williams. Whew. This is kind of the movie where he just kind of exploded, right?
Yeah.
I mean, people were obviously aware of him, Mork and Mindy, all sorts of stuff. But, in this movie, it was just kind of like, oh.
I think it's the fact that he was able to show both sides of his, acting abilities. He could be, whenever he's on the radio and he's doing, that character, he's being very loud.
Right,
and,
it just fits him so well.
Yeah, but then there's also those moments where he's, the scene where that always jumps out to me is the redacted scene, where he's like, I'm not allowed to tell you about this bombing, and and he's, I'm also not allowed. You see the range of this guy, how he can be this amazing comedic genius, but also he has this dramatic, very subtle performance to him.
I think it reminds me of a lot. Robin Williams' career in many ways reminds me a little bit of Jim Carrey's career, in that they're both these very physical, extreme, you know, kind of comedic actors, and they both found their way into dramas. And this Good Morning Vietnam to me is kind of like Carrey's Liar Liar. In that it was really the first time I saw Jim Carrey actually dial it down to where he, felt human and interesting, but it also, the plot of the movie played directly into his ability to be crazy. Yeah. This Pen is Blue scene I think of, and those kind of... This pen is... and so, Robin Williams really has that here as well, where he has times where he can dial it down and be human, but then the radio part allows him to still be zany, crazy Robin Williams.
Exactly.
And it's kind of a transitional time in their careers. Now, of course, the difference is Jim Carrey didn't win his Oscar, for the dramatic roles that he did, and I still can't believe he didn't win for
Man on the Moon.
Man on the Moon. Kind of blows my mind. But but I do think their careers are kind of similar in that way. But this is a good one. Good Morning Vietnam's definitely a good one. Barry Levinson film.
Yeah.
Good one to watch.
Number 3 for me.
Yeah, what's your number 3?
Goodfellas.
Yep. It's in my honorable mentions.
Yeah. I know you don't like it.
People know.
You don't
extreme.
like mob movies.
Personally, mob movies are hard for me to enjoy. And there's something about Goodfellas and, some of the others that it's difficult for me to go, I like that movie.
Have I ever told you
I respect it.
Have I ever told you why I like mob movies?
Go for it.
Because I don't look at them as the glorification of this lifestyle. I look at them as the cautionary tale, because at the end of every single mob movie, they all get their comeuppance. Every single mob movie has them get the comeuppance at the end. So it's more along the lines of, these are just a bunch of... It's the tale of Icarus. I look at every single mob movie as a tale of Icarus.
Sure.
They flew too close to the sun. They wanted too much, something like that.
I think you can tell in Scorsese movies especially how much he loves that lifestyle. I think there's just such an energy to it and a vibrancy to it that even when there's comeuppance, it feels like it was worth it.
I never got it was worth it.
Well, that's what it feels like when I watch The Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah,
I should say when I watched it once. I had the same thing, and I'm just like, I think it's a Scorsese thing. He gets too into the vibrancy of rule breaking and law breaking, and I don't know. There's a really interesting thing with him that's hard for me to put my finger on.
I can get with Wolf of Wall Street. That's not really a mob movie, but it's a glorification of that lifestyle.
But they get their comeuppance. Yeah, they still get their comeuppance.
Yeah, but whenever I think of mob movies, I think of Casino, and was it worth getting beaten to death with a baseball bat in a cornfield with your brother and buried alive? No, it wasn't.
Spoilers.
I'm sorry I spoiled a movie that came out in the 90s.
You don't have to be.
Yeah.
I think we're just going to have to agree to disagree. But I will
can understand what you're saying. I get it.
I think part of it is I don't like what it does to me. I don't like that I am identifying and going, oh, that's cool, so cool, or, oh, that looks so fun. You know what I mean? What he's doing is working. Is what I'm saying, and I don't like that. I don't like that I feel that way.
Oh, that's interesting, because whenever I watch those movies, I don't go, oh, that's so cool. I'm always watching this oh, that's going to come back to bite you. Oh, that's going to get you.
Maybe it's just a perspective thing. I don't know.
Exactly,
but I can still say Goodfellas is an incredibly well-made and performed well movie. I get Goodfellas is technically a great movie. I'm talking about periphery stuff that enters into it for me, and the reason. It was in my honorable mentions. I recognize its quality, for sure.
Sure. Okay, so your number 2?
My number 2 is Good Will Hunting.
Ditto.
Yeah, I
Wait, so how did you trump me on 2 things? Oh, so 1 was your number 1
I still have a number 1 left.
Okay. Yeah, Good Will Hunting is my number 2 as well.
Speaking of Robin Williams.
Yeah.
Making his way at my number 3 and my number 2.
Man.
This was the one that eventually would win him awards and those kind of things. I guess he did. Actually, I think he won a Golden Globe for Good Morning Vietnam, but not an Oscar. Great performance by him. Incredible story of Ben and Matt. writing this movie, getting it produced somehow, getting it made, and
Getting Robin Williams.
Yeah, this is an incredible film.
Yeah.
And it's not your fault, Andrew. It's not your fault.
I know.
Okay, all right. Just wanted to make sure.
No, that's what he says. He's like, no, I know. And he just keeps saying, it's not your fault. Yeah, I know. It's not your fault. Oh, man. Is that one of the most powerful scenes in film history?
Sure. I think
it might be.
Yeah, I think you can put it on that list.
Yeah.
You know, make that list at about 100. For sure it's in there. 50, maybe it's in there. You know, there's a lot of powerful emotional scenes in the history of film, but this is definitely one of them. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Man, performances all around, you know. Because you got to think, not only did they write this movie, and maybe it was the fact that they wrote it, that they understood these characters so much, but it's like, man, these guys just, what a way to let the world know who you are.
Right.
So, what a great movie.
Good stuff.
All right. So, your number one is obviously
Few
Good Men.
Few Good Men it is. Yeah, I mean, that's the truth.
Yeah.
You can't handle the truth.
You can't handle the truth, Aaron.
That's the truth.
You need me up on that wall.
You know, one thing about this movie that I love, or that I guess I should say I love, but I think others need to recognize more, it's not just the courtroom scene. It's not just the you need me on that wall, you can't handle the truth scene. This entire movie is crafted so well. There's so much great dialogue through this movie. Aaron Sorkin's a genius. He just is. The way he crafts the way people say things is just one of my favorite things.
It's fascinating, but it's not realistic.
That's fine. You mean Sorkin in general?
Yeah. Like the way people speak in Sorkin movies.
Totally agree.
I don't know of a single person who speaks like that.
I mean, other than us. You know, we're obviously that eloquent and humorous.
If it wasn't for this table and these mics, we would be walking and talking.
That's right. We would. The whole podcast would be a walk and talk for sure.
But you know, he does fascinating things in this movie. With, like you said, it's not all just a courtroom scene. There's a scene where Cruise is like interviewing Kevin Bacon and Jack Nicholson. You know, in Cuba, you know, he's like, yeah, we love the Navy. You guys give us a ride wherever we need to go. You know, that demeaning, like they're talking down to him because they think, yeah. But I think this movie is pushed to the next level because of the court.
Rob Reiner directed this movie.
Yes, he did.
It's so great.
No, it's not. This was like in that era where Reiner could do no wrong. He was making. He
did have that you know streak where it was just like he'd made nothing but good movies.
Yeah, this is Spinal Tap, Few Good Men, Princess Bride. I mean, I'm listing some of the greatest movies of all time.
And they're so different. And that's I love it when a director can. It's one of my favorite things. You know, I know I'm a Chazelle head, but that's one of the things I love about the beginning of his career too, is how different things feel, but they all feel like his. You know, and so I love it when a director can do, you know, just kind of all that great stuff. So here's Reiner's streak. You ready for this?
Yeah.
You mentioned this is Spinal Tap. Then he had a movie called The Sure Thing. But then he had Stand By Me, The Princess Bride, When Harry Met Sally, Misery, A Few Good Men, and then North brought the streak to an end. But I actually kind of enjoyed North, you know, more than most people do.
It's fine. I would have ended it at Misery, but wait,
before A Few Good Men.
Oh, I thought you said Misery was like the second to last one.
It was, yeah. So when Stand By Me, Princess Bride, When Harry Met Sally, Misery is fine. I don't think it stands with the other four, but then A Few Good Men.
I'll fight you on.
You love Misery?
I love Misery.
Why did you say you would end it with Misery then?
Because I thought A Few Good Men was before Misery.
Oh, I see.
I thought that Misery and then North.
No. Misery, A Few Good Men, and then North.
So I would have ended it at A Few Good Men then.
And then really since then, I mean, The Bucket List was okay.
He's had a rough time.
Yeah, he's had a rough time of that since. I mean, American President was good, but that was even just after North. So yeah, it's been an interesting ride for him.
But Few Good Men is a fantastic movie.
Yeah, man.
So good.
I really enjoy it. One thing I learned recently is I heard Kevin Bacon talking about shooting the scene where Jack is doing that whole thing in the courtroom, right? Mm-hmm. And when they shoot scenes, they shoot them from a couple angles. They'll run them from in front, and then they'll run them from behind.
Your close-ups, your wides.
Right. Yeah. So they run Jack Nicholson's close-ups, and he is just delivering it. And then most actors, once they run the other angle,
they're just reading off their script.
Yeah, they'll dial it back a little bit because it's more about the other end. Kevin Bacon said with Jack Nicholson, every single take, no matter where the camera was, he was that dialed in and nailed it in that way. And I love hearing stories like that where actors take it to the next level, and you're like, oh, love that work ethic, love that idea.
Well, whenever I made a few movies, I didn't know that. So it was weird for me being on set and then seeing that stuff, because I was like, well, aren't they not going to be picking up like the inflections and stuff? Like, no, they're not using that audio. And I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. But then there were people who were, off camera reading off the script who were giving it their all, just so that the person who was on camera actually had something to, fight back on.
Well, and I don't think he was saying that most of the time actors like completely dial it down and just read it off a page. I think what he was saying, you can tell there's a slight change when they know they're not on their close-up. He said there was no change with Jack Nicholson. So I loved that story anyways.
Oh, yeah.
So I know your number one, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
I was going to say Good Burger, but okay, yeah, sure. Yeah, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. I think it was my number one last week, too.
It's 2 weeks in a row.
So, yeah, everything I said about it is still holds.
And guess what? Someday when we do bad movies, it'll also be your number one.
And ugly movies.
And ugly movies,
greatest movie of all time. That's all I'm going to say.
Very nice. Yeah, we talked about it a while last time.
Yeah.
Eventually, I should see it.
Okay, how about this? For next week, your number one movie of all time is Singing in the Rain, right?
Yeah.
I will see Singing in the Rain.
You haven't seen Singing in the Rain?
Yeah, I haven't. So I will see Singing in the Rain if you watch The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
I've seen The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. I was just teasing.
Oh.
But wait, no. I mean, yes, if you'll watch Singing in the Rain, I'll watch The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Okay. Yeah. Honorable mentions?
Honorable mentions.
Yeah.
I just have a couple more.
I did say Good Burger.
Did you?
Yeah.
I actually don't know that I've seen Good Burger.
It's a stupid movie, but it's just fun.
I think you have to mention, speaking of Jack Nicholson, As Good as It Gets.
Yeah. I'm not up on that movie as much as everybody else.
Good Day to Die Hard.
Again, I'm not up on that movie. The Good Son.
Good Son. Long Kiss Goodnight, I think is worth mentioning.
Good Night and Good Luck, but you mentioned that.
I did.
Have you seen Good Time?
No, I don't even know what you're talking about.
It's a movie that has, what's his name from...
Isn't there a TV show called Good Times? I think there was.
What's his name from Twilight?
Robert Pattinson?
Robert Pattinson. It's a Robert Pattinson movie that is very interesting. Like, it's one of those movies you're like, oh, so you can act. Okay, interesting. It's a simple movie about a guy trying to save his brother from, going to jail. And it kind of reminded me of Run Lola Run. Did you ever see that movie?
Oh, yeah, I love Run Lola Run.
Except it's not as musical, driven as, but it's about, what will you do, to help save somebody. It's a good movie.
Very
nice. Not a phenomenal movie. That's why it's only in honorable mentions. But yeah.
The only other one I had was The Good Lie, which is Reese Witherspoon, and I really enjoyed it.
I've heard that it's actually better than what a lot of people expected it to be.
I think it is. I think it's one of those award season movies that just got completely buried by all the other movies, and but I enjoyed it. I think it's good.
Speaking of Reese Witherspoon, did you finish Big Little Lies?
I did. Yeah.
Whoa. So good.
All right. Before we move on to the Sift Quest.
Yes, we got to talk about the Patreon.
Let's do a little combined membership explanation and giveaway. Yeah. We're going to be giving away these Jordan Peele Blu-rays, a 2-pack to 3 different people. Now, we are pulling the names. I should say have pulled the names. I've already done this. From a combination of members of SiftPop, so anybody that's supporting SiftPop on a monthly basis, and people who have sent in any Sift quests in the last month or so. So I put all those into a digital hat and had a random number generator pull out 3 of them, and we will be awarding these to them. I will say before we award them, thank you so much to all our SiftPop members. You are amazing.
Yes.
We try to put some fun perks there for you, just kind of as a thank you for how you keep this podcast moving and going, and all that happens at Patreon. Patreon.com/SiftPop. There's bonus episodes pretty much every week. We'll do a bonus episode for our members. And again, we'll just chat about a topic, a related topic for a few minutes each week. And you have your own podcast feed for that. We do monthly hangouts at certain levels. Lots of different fun stuff. You can check it all out at patreon.com/SiftPop. All right, here you go. Winning.
Number one,
Jordan Peele 2-pack of Blu-rays is Sam Nolan.
Woo! Oh, really? That's awesome.
I know. Sam just started supporting last week.
Yeah.
And ends up winning this 2-pack. So thank you, Sam.
Good job, Sam. Number two?
Number 2 is Caleb Bunn.
What?
Caleb's been a big supporter of SiftPop and its related materials for a long time.
Caleb's
Thank you, Caleb.
an MVP.
Yeah. You're all MVPs. You're all the real MVPs. And number 3, Jessica Brown.
Jessica Brown
Is the third winner.
Nice.
And in case you were wondering,
Thanks, Jessica.
the random number generator the random numbers it picked were 6, 43, and 31. So that's what those related to.
I was actually kind of worried that it was going to pick me because I actually do support on Patreon.
Well, you know what would have happened if it did, Andrew?
You wouldn't have picked
I
me.
would not have given them to you. I would have drawn again.
Well, good, because I already
Just
have
so you
them.
know. So congratulations. I will be sending a message to you guys to get your addresses, and I will get those in the mail as soon as I can, or probably more appropriately said, as soon as I feel like it. All right.
Congratulations, everybody.
Yes, seriously, congratulations. And again, thank you. We do appreciate you.
Yes.
All right, SiftQuest this week comes to us from Anonymous. Wanted to remain anonymous, but it came through the email. And says, "Hi, Aaron and Andrew. I have a SiftQuest for both of you. I was rewatching Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban and thought how wild it would be to see Alfonso Cuarón tackle a horror movie. What are some out-of-the-box genres you'd like to see your favorite directors take on? And thank you." So we are going to assign our favorite directors a genre.
Yeah.
Why don't you
By
start
the way,
us off?
great SiftQuest.
Yeah.
Thank you, Anonymous.
Yeah.
I'm going to go Christopher Nolan.
I have Nolan too.
Horror.
No. I think Memento is a horror movie.
I think Memento is more like a not a thriller. Even I think it's just a mind bender.
Okay. Well, all his movies are mind benders.
Yeah, that's exactly. But I don't see him do. I want to see him do a straight up horror movie,
Like Psycho Killer kind
I'm
of
talking
thing?
like Pennywise. I'm talking like craziness because he's done. It'd be cool to see him do like a fantasy movie, but that's just not really out of the box for him. I don't think. But what do you have him do?
Well, it's funny because I have somebody I wanted to assign a psycho thriller, and then I have Christopher Nolan assign something else. Which do you want me to do?
I want to hear what you have Nolan doing.
I have Christopher Nolan doing a rom-com. I want to see what a Christopher Nolan romantic comedy looks like. I want to see...
I love you, boy.
His meet cute. Has a lot of bois.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I'm kind of... I'm not tired. I really liked About Time. But Richard Curtis does this. Richard Curtis has a way of doing romantic comedies that have kind of an interesting, concept to them. Most recently, what was the... They Don't Exist Anymore. Why can't I think of the name of the movie?
They don't exist anymore?
The guy wakes up, the band doesn't exist anymore. He plays the Beatles. Yesterday.
Oh,
Oh boy, that took way too long to get to. It was almost like the Beatles didn't exist anymore there for a second.
Yeah.
So Yesterday was Richard Curtis wrote that. So it's got this interesting, concept to it. And yet it's a romantic comedy in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But I haven't really seen it done extremely well. In that way, and honestly, the truth of the matter is, who's the guy that writes all the stupid, the Notebook? I mean, I shouldn't say the Notebook is stupid, but like
something green, right?
I can't. This is just Aaron forget stuff moment on the show. Anyways, his always have this kind of twist to them as well.
Yeah,
and it's like I want to see somebody do that well. I want to see Christopher Nolan do a rom-com that makes me feel that I want this couple to get together, and I'm excited about that, and also plays with my brain. You know what I'm saying? I want kind of that twisty rom-com kind of thing.
Go see Lucky Number 11.
Okay, fair enough. So that's what I said. What else do you got?
I got Paul Thomas Anderson. I want him to do a Marvel movie.
PTA Marvel movie.
I want a PTA Marvel movie.
I'm down with this.
I think that would be phenomenal. Especially, I want him to do the new Doctor Strange movie. Can you imagine a PTA Doctor Strange horror movie?
Yeah. I mean,
it sounds amazing.
I mean, no.
Yes, it does.
No, I mean, it sounds amazing, but no, I can't imagine it. Only PTA could imagine it.
Exactly.
I mean, again, some would say Phantom Thread is a bit of a horror movie.
Yeah. It was between, or There Will Be Blood. Yeah.
Phantom Thread is like its own genre. Phantom Thread is like rom horror.
Rom horror. Yeah.
You have to say
Romantic
all of the horror doesn't work very well. Rom horror is a totally different genre.
Yeah.
Rom horror, yeah.
That's why I say horror.
Yeah. No, I didn't.
Like a pirate.
Yeah.
Arr.
So yeah. I think that could be fascinating.
It was either him or what's his name who did Black Swan? I can't pronounce his last name sometimes.
Aronofsky?
Aronofsky, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was either him or Aronofsky to do a Marvel movie, but I landed on PTA.
Very nice.
Because he's had a better record, I think.
The person I want to do a psycho thriller is Damien Chazelle. I want to see his like dark psycho thriller, and I say it for a couple of reasons. Number one,
Chazelle. I was thinking Villeneuve for some reason.
No, Chazelle. When you watch First Man, and I've been talking with Jeremy from CinemaSins about this. He calls it a horror movie. First Man, in many ways, is kind of a horror movie. It's shot, very up close. It's supposed to make you tense. And I would love to see him actually work within that genre in that way. So that'd be
I could see him doing it just because Whiplash is so close to being a horror movie. It's a thriller, it's, because J.K. Simmons' character is so terrifying. But it's also, I could see him doing that. And I think he would do a really good job with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nicholas Sparks, by the way, is the guy that I'm talking about that wrote like The Notebook and all those other romantic movies with a twist.
Gotcha. I'm going to go James Cameron.
Ooh, what do you want Jimmy to do?
I want him to do an indie movie. I want him to have a fixed small budget. I want
like the old days?
I want to see James Cameron do Moon. I want him to do something like that. Well, that is
Terminator, right? Like the original Terminator.
Yeah. I want him to go back to that. I don't want him to keep breaking the box office record for every single movie he does, or the world record.
I get what you're saying. I think I totally disagree. Really? I like that Jim Cameron has all the money in the world and is like this mad scientist who is waiting for it to be, keeps pushing back his movies because technology hasn't quite caught up to what his brain wants to do. I kind of like that Jim Cameron. So, but I get what you're saying.
I think it'd be nice just, he can just do one more for me, do one
just
more
for Andrew.
And then you can go back to, spending billions on movies.
Very nice. More? I do have one more.
I do too.
Ryan Coogler. I want Ryan Coogler to do a musical.
I think he would nail a musical.
I would be so excited, and I kind of want it to be a hip hop musical, like a modern rap, hip hop kind of musical thing. Like I think he would.
You want Ryan Coogler to do Hamilton?
I was just thinking that.
Yeah.
Would be very, very interesting.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think that could be fun. I love musicals, and I would love to see what he did with it.
Nice. My final one is Tim Burton, and I want him to stop making movies.
I want him to make Dumbo again, but do it good.
Yeah. Ooh, savage burn.
Well, there you go. Thank you for that, Sift Quest. You can get your Sift Quest into us via email, feedback@siftpop.com, or just DM me on Twitter if you want to do it that way. Both work. We're down to the buried treasure.
Yeah.
What is that one thing in any area of pop culture you want to make sure people know exist? Dig it up.
I finally saw a movie that you championed so hard last year.
Oh, okay.
And you were so right. This movie is phenomenal. Easily one of my favorite movies of last year. Blind Spotting.
Yeah. Everybody's coming on the Blind Spotting train.
Oh my gosh, this movie is so good.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It's not my favorite movie of last year, but it easily cracked my top 5.
Yeah.
There's a couple scenes in this movie that I get chills thinking about. One is I guess you can say a rap, like a word slam at the end of this movie.
Yeah.
And the other is a case of misidentification turned on its head.
Yep.
Oh man, this movie is so good.
And there are
this
scenes
is a
that-
powerful movie.
And I always keep saying, like, there are scenes in this movie that on paper just should not work. They should never work.
Yeah.
The way that what they're having the actor do, the way they're having them say it, just shouldn't work. And somehow, not only does it work, it works phenomenally.
Yeah.
And again, there's that Hamilton connection. You know,
Yeah.
you're looking at Daveed Diggs doing some incredible work here. Get on the blind spotting train. It's really unfortunate, but it feels like when it comes to 18 movies, it's like with this movie, people can't quite see it. Like it's like they're looking, and it's like maybe it's just in their periphery vision. It's just like what would you call that? It's like a blind spot for them, and they're looking at 2018 movies.
Exactly.
My favorite thing is making producer Phil just shake his head like, I can't believe that just happened.
Yeah.
I'm glad you saw it, man. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
There's a scene in a cemetery where afterwards I actually had to pause the movie because of what I saw. I'm like, man, I just got to take a moment.
Right? Yeah.
I
That's good
cannot
stuff.
recommend this movie enough.
Yay! I like when
So
people
thank
finally
you.
see great movies.
Yeah.
Mine's not a movie at all.
Not at all?
My Buried Treasure is a new comedy special.
Is it a reality show?
No. Well, I guess kind of. There are comedy specials, reality shows. Jim Gaffigan's new special just came out on Amazon Prime called Quality Time. I've always been a huge Gaffigan fan. I think he's still hilarious.
Are you excited about his movie coming out this year?
What's his movie? I don't know anything
He
about
has
it.
a suspense thriller coming out this
Jim
year.
Gaffigan does?
Yes.
How did I miss this?
I know. It's crazy. Like, I saw the trailer for it, and I'm like, I'm waiting for the funny. And the funny never came. And I'm like, so he's
It's
actually
kind of a
doing,
Jordan Peele thing.
Yeah. No, he's totally doing, like, this crazy suspense movie. Like,
No, I just mean because when Jordan Peele made Get Out, people
you're
were like, okay, where's the funny? Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly. But this comedy special, it's on Amazon Prime.
Yeah, Amazon Prime got it.
Wow.
And there's about 15 minutes of material on horses. And it's some of the funniest things I've ever seen or heard. Like, Gaffigan has this way he does this beautiful stand-up thing that just only a few have mastered to this degree.
He's a pale fella.
Where it's super observational, and yet you can't imagine anybody else saying it. And I really love some of the stuff he does. So
I think that, we've been programmed to understand or to have an idea of what he's doing. So is this a movie I'm thinking of?
Oh, you're looking up the Gaffigan horror movie or thriller movie or whatever it is?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be interested in that. By the way, the special is called Quality Time, although if you load up your Amazon Prime, it should just be there in the things, like they have included with Prime section or whatever. I find Amazon Prime really difficult to navigate. As far as like the UI navigation game, Netflix is head and shoulders above everybody else in this game, which makes sense because they've been doing it the longest. But every time I log into Hulu or Amazon Prime, I'm like, man, this is just a nightmare to navigate through compared to Netflix. So, did you figure it out? Did you find it?
I think it's this one right here.
What's it called?
No, it's not that one. Dang it, I'm sorry.
All right, well, no worries. We'll
But this is going to be one of those things where if I don't find it, I'm just going to go crazy now. So.
All right, so we'll put the podcast on pause
Yes.
while
Do it.
Andrew.
Nobody talk for the rest of the podcast until I find out what this movie's called.
I'm gonna take a drink now.
Yeah. It's about Jim Gaffigan driving around this drug dealer and he ends up stealing his kid.
American Dreamer.
American Dreamer? Yes, that's exactly what it is. Where is it? I can't find it on IMDb.
It's coming out next month.
It is so not showing up on IMDb at all.
No, I take that back.
There it is.
Yeah, next month.
Yeah, a down on his luck hail driver, which I guess is like Uber. Yeah, has to drive around. Oh, this movie looks so good.
There, say it again.
A down on his luck hail driver, kind of like Uber, who wants to make some extra cash chauffeuring a low-level drug dealer around town, finds himself in a serious financial bind as he decides to kidnap the drug dealer's child.
Ooh, so when you said Gaffigan, you meant as an actor. I was thinking like as like a writer-director kind of thing.
He's directing it, or acting in it, yeah.
So, American Dreamer.
Yeah.
Very nice. Well, that's like a future buried treasure for you then.
Yes, it looks so good.
But for now, you can go see his stand-up special and laugh at it.
Which I'm going to do.
Quality Time is what it's called. Well, we did it, man.
Yeah.
Despite all efforts to the contrary, a podcast has taken place today.
Every single week they try and stop us, but they fail.
They cannot keep the bunker boys down.
No. We get back up again.
It's true.
Yeah.
We're bunker thumping.
Nothing you've ever said has sounded more wrong than bunker thumping.
Thanks so much for joining us today for SiftPop. It is part of the Studio DNA Podcast Network. You can find out more about other shows on the network at studiodna.media or just search for Studio DNA in your podcast player. Huge thanks to Andrew for hanging out again.
Hashtag bunker thumper.
Hashtag the bunker boys. It works a little bit better. Huge thanks to Phil for producing the show. Thank you, Phil. Appreciate that very, very much. And by the way, he produces the live video show as well. So if you want to check it.
It's an audio podcast, Aaron.
It is, but if you want to go see what it looks like when this audio podcast is recorded, then you can go to YouTube and just look at that. Look at that YouTube right there. You can just go look at that YouTube. So we appreciate that. Thank you, Phil, for doing that. Much love and gratitude to our SiftPop members for giving monthly to make SiftPop a real thing. That support starts at $3 a month, and you get access to every bonus episode as well as some other fun perks, including a monthly video hangout. You can find out more at patreon.com/SiftPop. Lots of ways to connect with us. You can comment, rate, leave a review at iTunes, or I should say Apple Podcasts now. We've been loving the shout out to the vanilla review that has been happening at Apple Podcasts. Thank you for doing that.
Oh, we didn't do the Vanilla Chronicles today, did we?
What are the Vanilla Chronicles?
Remember we were supposed to read all the new reviews?
There weren't any new vanilla reviews. So, but if you want to do one, you can go to Apple Podcasts and do it.
Yeah.
You can also email us any questions you have for SiftQuest or anything you want to ask us to feedback@siftpop.com, or tell us for that matter. And finally, if you're having a good time, your movie-loving friends will probably like the show too, so make sure you let them know about it, and that listening is much easier than crossing 5 lanes of expressway traffic on foot. We're going to do a few spoilers for Good Boys up next in your podcast feed, and then we'll be back next week with some thoughts, I'm going to say, on Angel Has Fallen. That seems like the big one. We'll put up another poll. So
kill me now.
I told you I put up a poll, and people did pick Good Boys. So
I'm glad they did.
Yeah, it was pretty far and away the choice. So we'll put up another poll on Twitter. You can vote on that. But Angel Has Fallen seems to be the big release next week. We'll see you then. Thank you, YouTube, hanging out with us on YouTube. Did you already close it, or are we still on? Okay, cool. So let's see. Ooh, lots of nice comments on YouTube. Lots of people hanging out with us. Appreciate that.
Hopefully,
Jamie Joie was like, Nicholas Sparks, thank you. If I was looking at the chat, I would have seen that. Mon says, congratulations to the winners.
Yes.
So,
thank you, everybody.
Yeah. Let's see. Tyler says hi. Hi, Tyler.
Hello,
still watching?
Tyler.
He says, was the movie any good? I might go see it today, or I'm deciding on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Oh, boy, I would see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood first, and then go see Good
the movie's
Boys.
Growing on me, actually.
Once Upon a Time is?
Yeah, I'm
Really?
starting to actually, like, the more I'm thinking about it now, you're like, you know what? I'm starting to overlook all this stuff that I didn't.
Interesting.
So it's actually growing on me. It's actually
that kind of movie.
It's kind of creeping up my list of movies.
Well, like I said, it did that to me, but it did it a little quicker. But it was just like when I walked out, I was like, yeah, I think I kind of liked that. And then, I mean, eventually it became Quentin's best movie for me. You know what I mean? It just kind of, it's one of those movies, I'm just like, the more I think about it.
Yeah, next week we got Angel Has Fallen and Ready or Not.
Let's see. Sebastian says, yay, Aaron Hobbs and Andrew Shaw are back in business. So.
I laughed out loud so hard when you said that.
Peter Fonda just died.
I think, I was reading a little bit about that this morning.
That's sad.
What were you saying, Phil?
Well, it's hard to follow that, but
I'm sorry, bud.
I was thinking last week you said, hey, welcome to our review of Hobbs and Shaw. I'm Hobbs, he's Shaw.
Yeah.
For some reason, that just tickled me.
Just cracked you up.
I laughed so hard, yeah.
Very nice. Thank you guys for hanging out with us on the YouTube. We're going to do some spoilers. There will be a video, but it will be different from this one. Should pop up in your YouTube feed if you have your notifications on. But we just want to make sure people know we're talking spoilers, so we have it on a separate video. So we'll see you then.
Bye.